So you have the Charlie Hebdo event occur, and you had thousands of French people and leaders from all around the world gathering in Paris to march for freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. I didn't make this particular video because I wanted all of that to die down, because I didn't want this story to be buried. But now that everybody is familiar with Charlie Hebdo, I want to talk about this. Within days of the Charlie Hebdo event, and right after the big, huge march for freedom of speech, you have French comedian Dieudonne being arrested for his anti-Semitic comedy act. He speaks to packed houses in France all the time. Now, the reality is he, like the comedians in America or those with balls, talks about everybody. But it's just like when you know, like the guy, the Duck Dynasty guy, that he mentioned sin, and amongst those sins, he said homosexuality. So the whole adulterer, child molester, terrorist, bomber, people who goes around and slitting people's throats, those were all excused, but he dared mention homosexuality when he was talking about sin and religion. And so he was kicked off his own show that he created for daring to insult homosexuals, although he listed about 20 different sins. So this guy talks about 20 to 50 different people, but he rants about anti-Semitism inside of his comedy act, and they arrested him. Comedian arrested him days after thousands marched proclaiming freedom of speech with posters and signs, blasting Barack Obama for not showing up, blasting Eric Holder for not showing up, blasting Joe Biden for not showing up. How dare you not show up when you are getting a march for freedom of speech? So after days within days of this, they arrest this guy. Freedom of speech. In fact, he's not the only one. They arrested 54 within days of the march about freedom of speech. So Charlie Hebdo gets a pass. Charlie Hebdo doesn't just make fun of Muslims. Charlie Hebdo makes fun of Christians, Catholics, Baptists, Protestants. And you all are cheering. Oh yes, Charlie Hebdo. Yes, you are so very courageous for freedom of speech. So this guy does the same thing and includes Jews in his act. The Ashkenazi Jews. Let's get this correct. The Ashkenazi Jews, the Zionists, and he gets arrested. But wait a minute. He's not the only one. They arrested 54 different people for anti-Semitism, quote unquote, hate speech. You can have freedom of speech and yet have a doctrine of hate speech? The two cannot coexist. France, you're liars. If you say that you believe in freedom of speech, you believe in freedom of speech. You don't believe in convenience of speech, or speech of convenience, or speech of nicety. I saw some of the comics from Charlie Hebdo. I thought they were disgusting. I mean, just downright gross. It would never be anything that I would look at. It would never be anything that I would willingly go out and purchase. Are you crazy? It's gross. I don't care what your point is. The comics are disgusting. And I know there's, the mainstream media has beat you all over the head with this, down with Muslims, down with Muslims, down with Muslims. And no matter how many times I say, we're talking about the Middle East. There's entire sections of Asia that are all Muslim who've never laid a hand, never laid a finger on women, never laid a finger on children. Never practiced pedophilia. Never. But the mainstream media wants you to believe that Islam is just horrible. It's awful. And the people are awful. Ergo, vis-a-vis, concordantly, the people are awful, right? So this guy dared to include Jews in his act. You can't have freedom of speech if you're going to arrest somebody for speaking. Now, they also are noticing an increase in anti-Semitism in France. Now, what could possibly be the reason for this?